2023 is behind us.
It is.
So I think it's only fair we look back on the year of
Yes.
2023 and have a little discussion
It's been
about the
a,
good, the bad, the ugly, and then look forward.
it feels like it's been a long year. But yet,
It does.
looking back, it feels like things were so long ago, but then the year itself felt like it went by quick.
Yeah. I feel like when you think about 2023, it does feel both shorter and longer. Because I
Mm,
wouldn't have said that we've only just started or ended the second year of doing this.
yeah.
Like the beginning of 2023 was 1 year of doing it.
Yeah, and it feels like ages ago.
And it doesn't feel like that was a year ago. It feels like we're entering like year 4.
Yeah.
It's definitely been a year of two halves. Which I think is why I forgot about some of the things that I've ended up putting in this list. Um, but we had some good TV this year.
We did have some good TV.
I battled so much on this because I kept on forgetting some of the TV shows we had.
I picked my answer immediately and I stuck with it, and I probably have
Right.
forgot stuff, but I'm not wavering.
So I believe, although I can't remember if it overlaps slightly, we started the UN Mando season 3.
I think
Or it
so.
might have been back end of last year, beginning of this year. We had Gen V, we had Secret Invasion, we had
Mhm,
Loki, we had
mhm,
Ahsoka,
mhm.
we had a lot. We had Bad Batch season 3,
Yes.
season 2,
Season 2.
um, season 2. We had a lot.
Mm.
What would you say was your highlight shows
Oh,
wise of 2023?
so my immediate, and I will stick with this because this is obviously why it was immediate, but Ahsoka takes the cake for the year. Like, I love that show. I'm big on my Star Wars, and that ticked so many boxes.
So I started with Ahsoka as my choice,
I
and
have
then I
honorable
remembered
mentions.
Loki.
Yeah, see, I have Loki as a honorable because obviously it's like it was great, and from a place where we weren't that confident in MCU shows, it surprised us and it was stellar. But I'm a Star Wars.
Yeah.
I can't not be Ahsoka.
But neither of them ended up winning for me.
Oh,
I think the award for me has to go to Gen V.
interesting.
I think it was an absolute revelation of a show that managed to do just as well and entertain me just as much as the other two without anywhere near as much hype.
Yeah, I can understand that. I also have an honorable mention for The Bear season 2, which is that chef show that I
Yeah,
think I briefly mentioned.
it's on mine and Jenna's list to get around and catch up on it, and at some point in 2024 we might. Who knows?
Yeah.
Um, what was the lowest of the low for you though,
So
TV show wise?
yeah, trying to remember like
Trying to remember the bad is actually really difficult.
yeah, because it's also really hard to like find like trying to get a comprehensive list of what everything that came out and making sure I'm not thinking of something that came out in like 2022. Hard when it's like something bad because it's not on any list. um, but I have gone Secret Invasion. I think purely because of how kind of disappointing of an end it was. We There was a lot of potential there for something cool, and it just didn't deliver. Um, Also, not like there wasn't a huge amount of shows really that I was like, "Oh, these are terrible
Yeah,
this year."
I completely agree. I think we either had a lot of good and a lot of average.
Mm,
Secret Invasion was okay at the beginning. It
yeah,
went downhill, and then it had what we agreed was the worst MCU TV show ending, which is saying something because our biggest complaint for every show other than Loki has been the finale.
yeah,
So for me, it had to take the bottom spot. We overlooked a lot of stuff early on, but it just didn't resolve enough of the stuff, and it all just
yeah.
wasn't what it could have been.
There's a lot
And
of
it was
setup
quite
and not no
disappointing.
payoff.
Exactly. Exactly. And it took Maria Hill from us for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
We had a decent year with films though. I feel like films
We
was
did.
very extreme. They were either very good or very bad. I feel like there wasn't a lot of bang average this year.
I'm struggling on this. I
Yeah,
have a triple threat.
you have a
Of
triple threat. I managed to get it down to 2, but I
I
might have just forgotten something.
I could probably get it down to 2, but it's difficult. For sure, Across the Spider-Verse or Into the
Yeah,
Spider-Verse. Is it Into?
Cross.
No, it is Across.
No, it's
Into's the next.
into.
I can't remember.
No, next one's into.
Is next one Into? So it is Across, yeah.
No,
Oh,
into was the first one. Across was the second one. The third one is Beyond.
okay, yeah. So Across.
Across the Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse. That is for sure there. Like that film, we both loved it so much. It is everything we could love. Spider-Man film, and the animation is flawless. But then I've kind of got another 2 that I'm struggling. I probably would lean more one way than the other, but I have Guardians 3, Guardians of the
Okay.
Galaxy 3, purely because of like the wrap up of that trilogy, and then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was a banging film,
Yeah.
great film, but it's very
So
difficult.
I narrowed it down to Guardians 3 and Spider-Verse.
I think that's where I lean also.
But I went Guardians over Spider-Verse for one reason and one reason alone.
Okay.
Guardians 3 had a complete story that ended, and it
Yeah.
ended a trilogy, and it was beautiful and well put together and told not just an overall compelling story, but
Mm.
really beautiful stories around Peter and Rocket,
Mm-hmm.
etc. Whereas Spider Verse is the middle of a trilogy. It was, while it's still a very good film, it's not a self-contained story. You've got the
Mm-hmm.
sequel coming that is going to then wrap it all up. And for that, I think Guardians 3 for me is
I can
better.
understand
But if we were just going like pound for pound, what do I think like is going to end up being the better trilogy? I think Spider Verse beats the Guardians trilogy.
that. Yeah, I think so too.
But when you're comparing 2 films from a trilogy, I feel like second is always going to lose to first or third, just because of the nature of what the second film in a trilogy normally is.
I get that.
Worst film I'm going to imagine is pretty easy for both of us.
Yeah, go on.
The Flash.
Yeah, The Flash.
Yeah. It still upsets me. I wanted this film to be so good so badly. I think it has really hurt our chances to get in a Flash film for a long time. There was a great film hidden there that they chose not to make.
Yeah, they just fumbled.
Yeah, it hurts,
Though
man.
I'm just thinking of something that might also be up there that we may have
Go on.
forgotten. Was Shazam
Shazam
2023?
was this year. Shazam
That
was
was
this year.
also pretty bad.
The only difference with that is I wasn't as disappointed by it
True.
because I didn't expect as much from it.
Yeah, I can understand that.
It might be as bad a film, but I was expecting an 8 out of 10 for The
yeah.
Flash and end up being a 1, whereas for Shazam I was hoping for a 6 and I got a 1.
Yeah. I think also it speaks a lot when Flash is what our brains went to as the worst, and I didn't even think about Shazam.
Yeah.
It clearly shows that Flash left more of a mark.
Yeah. Shazam is, I think Shazam's biggest crime is how forgettable it is.
Yeah. And they tried to shoehorn it so hard into the DCU.
Yeah. Now, but on to better news.
Mm.
And this is where I do have a real tough time.
Oh.
Biggest pleasant surprise. What did you go and see this year and you went, I am really glad that we decided to go see this?
So I have Gen V for this.
Okay, cool. I didn't even think of shows, and if I had of Gen V probably would have been in the list. I was thinking purely films.
So
Okay, so you got Gen V down for this.
yeah,
That is
pure
based.
purely because it's like also the start of this year I hadn't even watched The Boys,
Exactly.
so
This
it's
has been
like
a big undertaking
when
for
you
you.
mentioned Gen V, I'm like, okay, it looks interesting. Haven't watched any of the, and I binged through The Boys straight into Gen V, and it was like, this was really good. Like and considering it was a spin-off, often spin-offs can kind of flop a little bit.
Uh-huh.
But Gen V stood on its own, and I was very surprised, and also pleasantly surprised by the whole Boys franchise that I've now got into.
Yeah. No, it's based. So I have a three-way tie, and I genuinely
Oh,
cannot split
freeway
it here.
tie. Okay.
I've got Blue Beetle.
Yeah, I can see that.
I've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Mm,
Because while we saw the trailer and knew it was going to be good, we didn't
yeah,
know the film was happening until early this year.
true.
Like it all happened very fast.
That is a good point.
And Barbie,
Fair.
I knew I was going to go watch it. I was mildly excited. Barbie was a fucking brilliant film that I really really enjoyed. And that was I was expecting to enjoy it. I didn't expect to like get on the Barbenheimer train, do Barbenheimer, and love every second of it as much as I did.
Mm, yeah,
Um,
fair.
I genuinely can't pick. I don't think I can give it to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Again, it's being snubbed, but because when we saw the trailer, I knew it was going to be good.
I see off your list and thinking about it, I probably would say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles if I was to pick a film, purely off the fact that we didn't know anything about it and it came out of
Yeah,
nowhere and surprised us in that sense.
yeah.
But I can understand what you mean. Like we knew it was going to be
Whereas
good.
Blue Beetle, in the situation it was in, how delayed it
Mm.
had been, blah 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 blah. I still can't believe how good a film that is. The fact that it is didn't or hasn't done as well as Aquaman and stuff is criminal.
Well, this is why I have it as my biggest underperformer.
Really?
Well, that and I have one DC and one MCU.
Okay, I have the Flash as the biggest underperformer
Oh, so
because
I
I was
have
expecting such great things.
I have the Marvels and Blue Beetle because
Oh,
I looked
you're talking purely financially. Got
well
ya.
and reception like yes, we love both the films, but like they weren't these huge hits that I feel like they should have been. Like I
They were
think
definitely underappreciated from the
yes,
majority of fans.
so that's why I've got like Marvels and Blue Beetle, both really
Yeah.
good films, and didn't show in their numbers made, unfortunately.
Yes. I think a lot of much worse films than the Marvels and Blue Beetle have made a
Mm.
lot more money. And I
Yes,
think they just came out in a
Fast and
year that
Furious.
really hurt them. And it would be remiss of us to not point out the obvious that in a year where people are trying to accuse everything of being woke, that
Mm,
the film starring a Latin character,
mm,
sorry, a Latina character, um, Latino, because he's a man, and a film with a trilogy of women of different races as the main characters, for some reason, despite being brilliant, underperformed, is a problem.
mm.
And I need people to get their head out of their arse because we're letting good films flop, and it's going to mean that they don't know how to make good films soon.
Yeah.
Now, this is an interesting one. This next one I've thrown in here,
Mm,
because so far it's just been kind of opinion based. But actually, we'll save the next one for last because it makes more sense.
okay.
What are you most hyped for in 2024?
I have two things.
Okay,
Both happen to be shows. One is
okay,
Star Wars Acolyte.
okay.
Very excited to see where that goes because that has the potential to open Star Wars up to more than just this whole Skywalker era.
Yeah,
And then The Boys. Very excited for the next
okay.
season of The Boys.
Awesome. I also have two.
Mm?
One of mine is also the Acolyte.
No, okay.
Because back when all that Star Wars stuff got announced and we saw the Acolyte, me and you both went, I don't know what that is, but that title makes me feel some kind of way.
Yeah.
It feels like a really like we know it's set back in the past. It's going to be. I've got a feeling it's going to be very, very good, and I cannot wait for it.
Mm.
The other one is Joker: A Folie à Deux.
Ah.
I over the last kind of 6 months, I've kind of, and I think I've made it pretty well known, kind of gone. I want superhero films to try and do batshit
Yeah.
stuff. I want them to try and be more creative, be more colorful. People are claiming they're getting bored of it. Like I said, the people who made the Avengers films and Spider-Man No Way Home $2 billion films aren't turning up anymore.
Mm.
So try some creative shit and let it be art again.
Yeah.
I think comic books, although yes, they do have their formulas, are like a very true art form. It's good versus bad. You can make it simple as you want. You can make it as complex as you want, but it is like a really pure art form. And the
Mm.
films aren't conveying that super well anymore. They're
Yeah.
worrying too much about the commercialism and how do we turn this into a million more films.
Yeah.
Um, and I'd like them to focus on telling a story first and then worrying about how they connect later. And I think a musical
Oh,
was
you
could
cut out
be.
slightly there, but
Oh, I think a musical set in Arkham Asylum with Lady
mm.
Gaga as Harley Quinn, after how artistic and good the first Joker film was.
Mm.
It could be hit, it could be miss. I'm excited for it because it's
Yeah.
going to be different.
Oh yeah, that's like it's gonna be. They're trying something, so it's like you can't fault
Exactly,
them for trying something different.
exactly. Even if I don't like it, I'm going to turn up and I'm going to pay my money and I'm going to go watch it because they tried something. And if nothing else, I want to show my support for creative people
Yes.
being allowed to try stuff.
Yeah.
Now, resolutions for 2024.
Now.
I thought this would be just a kind of fun area to talk about because, like I've kind of really accidentally mentioned, because just the way running order works, I'm going to try and change how I like view the content we're talking about instead of just like, oh, this means this and this means this. Like, how do I view it as art?
Hmm.
I was wondering if there was anything you would like to throw in there. I have a couple of bits as well, but is there anything you're trying to focus on this year?
I mean, personally, for me, I want to get back to doing my own content, which I've talked to you and Josh about.
The
But
boys.
I mean, podcast wise, and in terms of all this, I mean, I think this year I finally got caught up on shows that people have obviously been telling me to, but I've like been a classic, my stubborn, so I'll get to it. But I think I'm learning my lesson that I do just need to. People are like often things for this, like I should get around to watching these shows quicker, or making more of an effort to expand into like watching other stuff. So probably doing that going into the new year.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, when we started this way back when, we both kind of said this will be the content we make sure we don't stop. This will be the thing we
Yes.
turn up, rain or shine, and do. And then we both know we can flit in and out of doing our own stuff when it feels right and when we have the extra energy and motivation for it. But it keeps us always in that content mindset so that when we have that bit of extra energy and we're feeling a bit inspired, we can then
Yeah.
go and do our other stuff on the side as well. So it's good because it's working. You've had something to do, and
Yeah.
now you're like, I'm ready to do my own stuff again, and you can go and do that on the side as well. Mine, the ones I've got written down are podcast focus.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we've got like our shorts nailed on how we want to do them and stuff like that, I want to get back to getting our content back on all platforms regularly.
Mm-hmm.
We have tried and failed to do this a million times of making sure they're going up on Instagram Reels and TikToks. And
So
I get
difficult
really
though.
good at doing it for like 4 weeks straight, and then we have a bad week or we need to try and change something or whatever. I'm like, this is a ball ache again. We've got it in a manageable spot right now. So once again, gonna headbutt the wall. We're gonna see if I can get it to do it. The other thing that I've not really tried before, but I've said about doing before, I have lots of opinions. And you'd think with that I'd be better at Twitter than I am, but I'm terrible at Twitter because I sit there and I have my thought in my head and I just don't tweet it.
Mm,
I'm just gonna start tweeting shit. Um, I did one literally earlier today. I'm gonna start scrolling on Twitter, and when I see stuff that normally I would just save as like a tiny little bit that I mentioned in the news,
mm.
I'm just gonna quote retweet it from the Twitter account straight away.
Yeah, that's something that has throughout this whole last year has always played on my mind that I'm like, I should make more of an effort with our Twitter. Because there's been odd little occasions where I've had like the idea to do a meme or to interact with something, and I'm like, I've gone and done the tweet, and I'm like, I just need to do that more. Because there's been a
Yeah,
few times where I'm like, I could make a funny meme for Cutsy Convos, and then it's like I get distracted and don't do it.
yeah. So that's something I want to focus on this year. When I'm sitting there and I'm scrolling and I'm seeing these conversations that we talk about every week, like I see on
Mm,
Twitter, that are like 30-second things we don't need to really talk about on the podcast, but I've held on to that opinion.
yes.
Instead of saving it for a tiny little bit that gets forgotten about in the grand scheme of the podcast, I'm
Mm.
gonna hit it out there.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
also like moments like where we see stuff on Twitter as it's happening, and we just send it to each other, and then that's kind of what that's it.
yeah.
Like we should really be making more of an effort from this platform to be doing it on.
So, like, what was the one I saw earlier? Oh yeah, Warner Bros. Announced that it was partnering with AI company Futureverse to make Ready Player One a real thing. I love Ready Player One.
What?
I love Ready Player One. It's a great film. So I quote retweeted that from the cutscene account. And I went, companies and people who buy into stuff like this really don't understand what a cautionary tale is anymore.
Mm,
Genuinely terrifying implications of media literacy being at an all-time low. Ready Player One, while it does look awesome, and yeah, it's a video game world you can live in, is a cautionary tale because it's about mega corporations trying to take this thing that people enjoy and make it horrible, and people are going to keep having to use it because everyone lives in tower blocks stacked a million miles high because there's nowhere left to go. It's talking about
yeah, it's not.
like all of the bad things of an over reliance on technology, and they're like, yeah, no, we should make that a real thing. No,
I don't. This has always baffled me with since VR started coming about. It's like yes, VR was very cool. Some of the early games, like it was fun. This is like oh, new technology, like you're first person in the game. But I always said from then, I was like, VR will never be like
too gimmicky.
this thing that people live in. I was like, it just doesn't work that way. What'll happen is you get AR and mixed reality, and you get things in like Google Glass was too ahead of its time, unfortunately. But things like that, where it's like AR in real life, that's where it'll go. So people trying to make Ready Player One or these metaverses and all this, it's like it's not gonna happen. You need to find
100%.
ways to bring tech and that stuff into the real world
Yeah,
through
exactly that.
AR glasses or
Um,
whatever.
so yeah, so if you don't already, make sure you go follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and stuff. We're gonna make
Yes.
more of an effort to be more active on them platforms, and just start. I'm definitely gonna accidentally cause some arguments. A lot of the time in YouTube comments, unless it's like a really egregious thing, I tend to let it go. On Twitter, I'm a lot worse at letting stuff go. So if I tweet something and someone
I look
comes back at me a little bit,
forward
I am going to back with the void.
I
What I
look
will do
forward to me
since
messaging
Horry
you and being like, Connor, I think as a brand, we need to not be
is.
saying these things.
So, since Horry is also going to try and be more active, we will tag the end of tweets with a C or a H, depending on who's tweeted it.
If it's a personal opinion, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You realize what I'm going to do now?
Yeah, you're going to
I'm,
say something just terrible and just blame it on me.
I'm going to be
Yeah,
like,
cool.
Spider Man is by far the worst MCU character ever. Connor.
It's fine. No one would buy that. Although I do have some strong opinions about Spider-Man and the MCU, but people aren't ready for them yet. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at for 2024, as well as obviously plans for my own channel. I've not streamed on my own channel yet this year, which is crazy. But I've got big plans for the first stream. I'm going to sit there and write stuff. It's going to be great.